What's up everybody, I'm HoopsandHipHop. So now that Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee have been out for almost a month, we are slowly exiting the major hype season for these games, and as such, we're also exiting the major promotion of them as well, and along with the promotion of these games, we've seen the major promotion of the Kanto region as well. This is because the Kanto region is of course the setting for these games, and because we've seen Kanto featured in a lot of various Pokemon games over the years, people like to say that Kanto is very much played out, and we have seen everything that Kanto has to offer already. However, I am willing to bet, even with all of the times we've seen Kanto, there are still plenty of things about the region that you either have not noticed or do not know about entirely. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about in this video, because today we are going to be covering 10 facts about the Kanto region that you don't know. Now, these things might be the type of things that you are completely unaware of altogether, or they might be things that have been staring you right in the face for 20 years that you might have just not picked up on. Either way, these things are very interesting, and I'm sure they'll provide a very interesting wrinkle to the Kanto region that you might not have been aware of before. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the first thing we're going to be talking about here is the overall theme of the Kanto region. A lot of critics of Kanto like to say that it is a very boring and bland region with not a lot of variety to it. However, Kanto does have a very specific and intentional theme that can dispute at least part of these criticisms, because Kanto is based very heavily in the theme of technology. This is actually kind of ironic, considering it is the region that had the least amount of technology to work with, being introduced on the Game Boy back in 1996, but nonetheless, Kanto does have a very specific technology theme. We see this in certain places like the power plant as well as Silphco that develop the one and only Master Ball, and we also see the Pokemon Lab on Cinnabar Island, which is responsible for the creation of the legendary Pokemon Mewtwo. Kanto is the only region whose games do not feature a legendary Pokemon on the box art, and whose story does not revolve around the stories, myths, legends, use, or capture of a legendary Pokemon, and instead, one of the main featured legendary Pokemons in the region, Mewtwo, is actually a Pokemon that was created by mankind when it was cloned from Mew by Team Rocket, thereby even more cementing the theme of technology. Even though Kanto doesn't have any myths or legends associated with it, it does have something within its region that was featured all the way back in Pokemon Red and Blue that can actually tie it to the modern lore of the Pokemon franchise. And that actually comes from one of the technological center points of the region, Silphco. Silphco actually gets its name from the word Sylph, which is the name of a mythological creature, and it just so happens that this mythological creature was first described and documented as an air spirit by the Swiss-German physician and alchemist Paracelsus. Now, the reason why this is interesting and notable, as you might have already picked up on, is because the name of this mythological creature, the Sylph, was created by an alchemist, and as we all know as Pokemon fans, alchemy is a huge focus in the overall lore of the Pokemon world, and has started to kind of show itself in the last couple of generations. So to see something connected to alchemy that was featured in the very first Pokemon games before this was even a thing is very, very interesting, and it's even more interesting when you consider the Silphco's possible ties to using infinity energy in their Pokeballs, which is another thing that is tied into the whole alchemy and overall lore of the Pokemon franchise in recent years. Another very interesting thing about Kanto that might be intentional, or it just might be coincidental, is that Viridian City, which is the first city you visit after leaving Pallet Town, is the home to the 8th gym leader Giovanni, and later Blue, after Giovanni is defeated and disbands Team Rocket. The reason why I bring all of this up is that Viridian City gets its name from the color Viridian, which is a blue-green pigmented color, and as I just barely mentioned, the gym leader of Viridian City is of course Blue, who is also known as Green in Japan, which is a perfect representation of the city's name. One of the newer things introduced to Kanto in the remakes Fire Red and Leaf Green are the Sevi Islands, and the Sevi Islands are an archipelago of islands located to the south of Kanto that are able to be explored during the main story and post-game of Fire Red and Leaf Green. However, these islands are not named the Sevi Islands because there are 7 of them, even though this might seem to be the case because they are named numerically from numbers 1 to 7. In fact, there are actually 9 islands in the Sevi Islands, including the event-exclusive Naval Rock and Birth Island, and the reason why